you just popped out a bunch of videos though.
Like a chicken with eggs.
What's up with that?
It was terrible.
Like
I was just trying to get, yeah, exactly. I was just trying to get something done, man. Shut your face.
So is the conclusion,
What does that even mean? You're popping about?
Well, my chicken does not even sound like a chicken, by the way.
That sounded so weird.
What's
Some sort of
so
strange
is the
bird.
Numi, the name and budget speakers then, the Numi One, beat out the Sony?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. A lot of people. So one thing I learn every time I make a review is if you say anything bad about something somebody likes, they come out of the woodwork to tell you about how you're wrong. And it's like, guys, it's just a speaker. Like, you can still buy it. You don't have to not buy it if I say I don't like it. You know, it's a funny thing too. It's like a double-edged sword because people are like, oh, well, measurements don't matter. And it's all preference. And then it's like, well, if that's true, then why are you even arguing with me? Right. Like if it's purely preference, then why do you care what somebody else says about your speaker? Just go enjoy it. You go. But the point is, you're trying to teach. I don't know, man. I think the Sonys have their pros and cons, and I think the Numis have their pros. But I like the Numis overall because they're more linear. But at least in the treble region, when treble is really non-linear and it's just bouncing around, that drives me nuts. I can forgive mid-range for doing that most of the time, but treble, it's just, I don't know. I don't like it. It bothers me.
You know, there
It's
was
interesting. We were talking about how interpreting the graphs is like a kind of like the subjective part.
It absolutely can. It depends on what you're looking at and what you're trying to take away from it. And that's the thing. Like it's complicated. You can't just look at one graph and say, this is the best thing. You've got to look at all the different things and try to understand, okay, well, why does this matter to me? So it's tough. It's tough. I try to stress certain key things that I look at, but it doesn't mean that everybody else is going to be concerned about the exact same things, because otherwise, if I could just throw out the data and say, all right, have fun, I'd be out in 30 seconds. Here it is. Here's the next one. Here's the next one.
Yeah. I saw a message here, kind of like how measurements don't matter to me. So the thing is, there's certain things that are just wrong, though. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
So if I say, oh, this thing has a ton of bass, and it doesn't,
have any bass,
well, that's just wrong. It's not
exactly.
like,
or it's
not like I'm
peak,
saying
you got to peak at like 50, 60, or a big old bump in the back there. You're like, oh, this thing has no bass. And you're like, well, what do you mean? It totally looks like there's bass.
Yeah.
Or the thing is all over the place. It's all over the place, and then so you're saying like, oh, this is a pretty neutral speaker.
Flat.
Yeah. It sounds smooth. Like, does it?
Like
the Sony, a lot of people were replying, it sounds detailed, and one guy even said sharp, and I'm like, yeah, but you see that in the data, like, and that's what I'm trying to get people to come around to. Like, it's fine if you like it and I don't care. But you're trying to understand what the data means to you as a consumer, because then you're making the right purchase decisions for yourself later down the line. It's not about who has the best stuff or the coolest stuff. Like, I don't know. Well, but anyway, it's getting better.
I could look at those two graphs from those two speakers and say, oh, the Sony kind of looks better in some ways.
Yeah, like, no, you absolutely could.
Like maybe for me, I could look at the same data, listen to the same speaker, and say I like the Sony better.
Yeah, well, and that's what I said in the review. I was saying, for me, I'm looking at the treble region because there's nothing you can do about the treble region. With the Numi, you can stuff the port, you can put it against the wall, you can boost up the low end and make it more flat overall, but you can't stuff the port on the Sony because you'll just make it boomy bass and it's going to roll off super steep and it's not good. With the Numi, it was smoother on axis through the treble region, and I like that. But that's the point, Hey, this is what I like. This is what I'm telling you. Oh, if you don't like that, then okay, you do the other thing. Do the opposite of me if you don't like what I'm saying.
There's certain graphs that you put out that I really like the plus or minus 1.5 and the plus and minus 3 dB.
Yeah,
graph. Like I've copied that straight up.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. It's all right though.
So I'm like, this is a great idea because it just easily shows you.
Yeah.
Where's the minus 3 dB point? Okay, well that line. See where the hell crosses that line, or that's where it is.
Right.
And then is it staying within the middle line, the 3 dB point, or is it going way off? I mean, those are pretty easy to understand, and you can see where it's happening, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I like those types of graphs. I think maybe there's some room for you to kind of make your own kind of graph like you did there.
Yeah.
Kind of boil things down even simpler.
Yeah. Yeah,
I wonder if there's an equivalent to that when it comes to directivity index.
Well, that's really what the spinorama data is for, though. You know, you have your early reflections directivity, and then you have your sound power directivity. You know, and I really just look at the early reflections and kind of focus on those. Like, what's it doing in the frontal hemisphere with one rear wall bounce? But
well, I'm saying when you look at the directivity index, there's no graph. Like, does it fit within this? Like, what's the range? Like, oh, you know, like what is bad, what is good, right?
Right. Well, and that's where you start getting into preference, because as long as it's linear, that's a good thing. Anytime it deviates from linear, and I mean like it could be a straight up and down line, or it could be a flat line going across the x-axis.
Tricky, yeah?
So anything in between there is like how wide that radiation pattern is, and that's up to you, what you like. So, and that's why this stuff isn't really as straightforward as some people like to make it. Like I see people posting on ASR sometimes. Amir will do a review, and then they'll start saying, "Oh, it's a horrible speaker," and I'm like, "Well, you see a horrible speaker, but I see things that are pretty good about what you would call a horrible speaker." So,
like, yeah, you know, with directivity, it gets me confused when it's linear here, right? Boom, it's linear, and then it goes up like this, let's say,
yeah,
and then it's linear again. Like, all right, so what does that mean? Like, it's linear here, it's linear here, it's linear here, but somewhere there's not.
What do you? Right, yeah, no, and that's a really good point. So that's one that is kind of hard to explain, but basically, at any point when it becomes nonlinear, you can't do anything about it EQ wise. So that's one bad thing about it, you know. But I see what you're saying. Like, okay, when it makes that jump from one, well, it's actually still linear through here. So is that bad or good? Well, it kind of depends, you know. So you've got to
that hinge right where it hinged.
Right. So then you've got to go back to the other data sets and look at it and try to understand, well, what's causing that? You know, is it a vertical thing? And if it's vertical, then that's not really that big of a deal, or as big of a deal, but. I don't know, man. I enjoy it. Hopefully people get something out of it. That's really all I'm trying to do at the end of the day, is just help people be informed, you know, because we can't make those decisions. It's up to you to spend your money and figure out what you like.